tonight, Congressman John Fleming represents that district. He's also on the House Armed Services Committee, and this story has him pushing to ban same-sex ceremonies at military facilities. He wants to ban them. Welcome.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, thanks for being here. This was a commitment ceremony. It wasn't a marriage. It wasn't a civil union. It was a commitment ceremony. So in your mind, what's the problem with it?
Well, there's several problems. First of all, Carol, the state of Louisiana does not recognize a marriage between two men or two women. It's unlawful, certainly, to do that. And that passed into the Constitution of Louisiana by a vast majority of Louisianians.
But again, the ceremony wasn't a legal binding union, and since the chaplain was a military chaplain, the Army approved it. The Pentagon told us this morning it approved it. So if it's not a civil union and it's not a legal marriage, what's the problem?
Carol, I think you have your facts incorrect. The base commander was not even aware of it when it occurred. The head chaplain had no knowledge of it. This was done by a chaplain and two individuals who did it on their own. There was nothing went up the chain of command. There was no approvals. And again, the state of Louisiana, the law does not provide for unions between members of the same sex. Now, as you point out, they characterize this as a marriage-like ceremony, perhaps a mock ceremony. The point is that a military base is not the venue for that. That is, a protest and so forth should be done outside of that venue. Our responsibility with regard to the defense of this nation is to ensure the readiness of our military members and to defend this nation, not to use it for social experimentation or trying to promulgate some sort of change in our society or customs of our society. So for that reason, this is problematic, and we passed in the NDAA bill earlier this year, in fact, a prevention of doing this.
Just going back to what you said about that, and we did contact the Pentagon, and the Pentagon did not have any problem with this. And the chaplain who performed the ceremony didn't have any problem with this. And
that's completely different, because obviously the chaplain who performed it agreed to do that. But no, the Pentagon was not. The Pentagon was not notified. The base commander was not notified. So they may say after the fact they had no problem, but it was not approved by any stretch of the imagination. The problem is basically, Carol, that this is hardly the venue for a protest ceremony or a mock ceremony. Military readiness is extremely important, and I don't think using it as a social test tube is appropriate.
Well, I guess, nobody forced the chaplain to perform the ceremony. Nobody forced the troops to watch. Nobody forced troops to come in and participate in the ceremony. So I'm struggling to understand how this affects the military in any way.
That's simply not the question, Carol. The question is, now we have a base commander who's had to field questions from the media for a week, which has diverted him away from and distracted him and many other members of the service from their important duties to defend this nation. That's what's important in their jobs, not having to deal with this and many other episodes that may come down the pipe.
But the Pentagon has no problem with this. The Army chaplain may be dealing with it because of complaints from your office.
Yeah, that's what you say. I've received no notification from the Pentagon that this was approved in any way, shape, or form.
So what's the next step? Will there be, what would you suggest they do? Because this wasn't a civil union and it wasn't a legal marriage. They were having a commitment ceremony with a chaplain that agreed to do it. And so I'm still struggling to know what the controversy is.
Yeah, I'll try to help you with this, Carol. I just personally, and I think many of my colleagues and many Americans and certainly many people in Louisiana do not feel that a military base and using military members in facilities is a place for a mock ceremony. Certainly, if this were in a state where it is recognized legally, that's probably acceptable. But I think in the state of Louisiana where it's not, using the base facilities for a mock ceremony in some way to promote a social experiment is simply a bad use of this country's assets. We're at a time in which we have to defend this nation against potential terrorism around the world. We're having to deal with problems constantly, as you know, and we don't need these kind of distractions from our military members.
Congressman, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Carol.